board gaming night here, and today I'm going to review Horrified American Monsters. I'm going to go ahead and, as always, what I like to do is give you an overhead view of how much space the game takes up on the table. It does take a decent amount of space, so be prepared with that. However, you can always probably use up less space as I do. I just like to make sure I can see everything as clearly as possible. Now, I had mentioned that when I was a child, my arch nemesis, the creature that literally terrified me because it was always on the news in the mid-90s, was the chupacabra. That thing terrified me as a kid, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my revenge and I'm going to fight him. And the other monster I would always hear about, although I never really felt fear about this one, was Bigfoot. It was more curiosity, but I wanted to pit myself against both of them to see if I could help the investigators. In this case, I had the agent and the psychic save Cross Creek from the terror that the monsters were going to bring. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick overview. This is not a how-to play, especially if you've played Horrified, you know what to expect. But I'm just going to give you a gist of what the game plays like so you understand how the game plays, and I'll let you know what I think about it. I'm going to go ahead and start with the character cards. And I like these player boards because it makes it look like if it's one of those little notepads that you would watch investigators in television shows and movies use when they're taking notes, and I think that's really neat. Each investigator has a special ability. Some use an action and some don't. Like, for example, if you use this special action that the agent has, it does not take an action. However, if you're playing as the psychic, her ability does use an action. And you know how many actions you have to take by the lower right-hand corner here. And if you played Horrified before, the previous one, the actions that you could do are actually very simple. You, using your character, you could take an action to move one space on the board. You can also guide a citizen, like every citizen that shows up on the board through the monster cards will have a location on here. In this case, they'll say motel. So she would have to go to the motel, which is somewhere over there. It's over there, okay? But let's say you want to move her. You can guide her and say, okay, I want you to go here. And that would be an action. On the topic of citizens, when you're moving, you could also move all the citizens or one citizen with you as one action as well. It's just part of your movement. There's no extra action that you have to spend doing that. Another action that you could do is pick up. Like on every single part of the board, every time you choose a monster card, after your players go, you pick a monster card, and on the upper right-hand corner, there's going to be a number with basically this is the number of items that you're going to have to then take from the bag, remove from the bag, and one by one, you're going to start placing those items wherever it says. Like, for example, it'll tell you right here, if you take out the shovel, it'll say the shovel goes into town center. You look for town center on the map and add it. It's really that simple. Going back to the monster card, it'll also tell you what may happen here. In this case, it'll tell you place Jimmy at City Hall. So you'll get Jimmy, which I set him off to the side, but you see I have my citizens off to the side. I would grab Jimmy, and I would do what the card says. Place Jimmy in City Hall. And then I would place Jimmy in City Hall. In this case, good for me. I'm glad that Jimmy's actually here. Once I placed him in City Hall, once again, like I mentioned earlier, I'll let you know he goes to the mansion. So it would be my objective to help him, guide him to the mansion. And once you get the citizen to the mansion, the citizen will then be removed from the game, and you get to pull an item card and place it on your character, next to your character. So then that's going to be an extra action that you could take, but this actually doesn't cost an action. It's just an extra ability or whatever it may be that's written here that you could take. And that's what's neat about these item cards, is because they're very helpful. So you could, if you want, completely ignore the citizens and don't take them to their location, or just move the citizens so that they don't get in harm's way. Or you could actually take them to their destination and you'll be rewarded with these item cards, which, as a matter of fact, in this game in particular, actually helped me win the game. So it's very important to do it. So I had mentioned that you could move your character, you guide the citizens, you could pick up items on the board, and it doesn't matter if you're on a space that has 4 or 5 or how many ever items. You could take them all, or you could just take one, or you could just take some. That's where the cooperative portion of the game comes in, and you could talk between your team members and see whether or not you would like they would like you to leave an item or not. But since I'm playing solo, I just go ahead and just do however I please. And this is a great solo game, by the way. Another nifty action, which is one that I also used and it helped me a lot. If 2 investigators are on the same tile, what you could end up doing is doing what's called a share action. So for one of your actions, and all the investigators have different actions. In this case, these had 4. I could say, hey, you know what? I would like you to use a share action. Can you give me one of your items? And like, yeah, just swap it up. And you could do as many as you want. You don't have to just do one item. You could say, okay, give me these items, and then I'll give you these items. So that's what the share action does. And it's really straightforward and easy. And it actually helped me to be able to go to the farm and use my advanced action to fill up the farm with all the goats that I needed to be able to then defeat the chupacabra. So that share function actually was pivotal and very important in whether or not I won or lost this game. So far, basically what I'm saying is that every action, it's useful. There's no action that goes to waste here. Excuse me. I had mentioned one of your other actions is advance, which is the same thing that I had mentioned. That's the advance. Whenever you're wherever the monster has like a special objective you have to do, you would just do that advance action. So that's another action that uses one of your actions. Defeat, which is when you finally do everything that the monster tells you to do. In this case, on the upper right, you'll see at the farm, place the goat on one of the empty spaces. Continue until all 6 spaces are filled. Once you do that, it'll say if the chupacabra, once you do that, once you get on a chupacabra's location, if you use 6 or more yellow items, and it's not actually yellow items, they have a strength level. So if I grab a yellow item right here, this one has a 3 on there. So I don't need 6 of these, but I need to have a total of 6 strength and be on the same location as the chupacabra to defeat it. So if I had 3 strength yellow tokens, it'd be enough to defeat the chupacabra. What ended up happening to me, and that's because I ended up shuffling this back because the bag ran out and I had to shuffle tokens. I had this. So this pistol was enough to take the chupacabra down in just one move. And that was kind of fun. That was exciting. It was kind of lucky because I just had it and I wasn't really thinking about it. It just happened to be. And I had mentioned earlier the special action, which is the special action on your player board. So that's it. You go around, you make sure that you do whatever objective the monster has you do in order to defeat it. Oh, by the way, Bigfoot was so unique. And actually, even though it says that it was a higher difficulty, I didn't think it was. But it was kind of funny. It was a tug-of-war type of thing, because if you don't stay behind him or on his trail, you run the risk of both the fear track going up and Bigfoot will start flipping over the tiles that you unveiled. It would go like that. I just made a huge mess of it, but that's what it would look like. Like, he'll start undoing the work and the progress you did to try to find out whether or not Bigfoot exists. And it was just like kind of funny. It had me smiling because I was like, I got him. Oh no, he flipped over. And what basically the way he works is that every time Bigfoot moves around the map, he leaves footprints behind, okay? And you go and you pick up a footprint, and every time you pick up a footprint, you get to flip over one of these tiles. So if this was the last tile that I had to flip over and I would have picked up that footprint, I immediately just flip it over. And then you create the picture and it's like, oh, I found Bigfoot. Then you just go on his location and beat him. But I just liked that his back and forth interaction was so funny. I was laughing the whole time. It was just enjoyable because there were so many times that I was just about to get him, and then he ended up getting away. And it's like, just imagine like in real life that whether or not Bigfoot exists, I don't know, but you know how the story goes that he's just out of, right when you're about to get him, get a clear picture, he gets out of the way. And I just think that's so funny. It was so thematic to what Bigfoot is, who Bigfoot is, and even the chupacabra, you know, sucking all the blood from the goats. It was fun. I had fun. So that's basically how you play and how you win. And what you want to do, you want to avoid that fear track from going all the way to the skull over there. So you want to defeat both of the monsters before that happens. If the monsters attack either you or a citizen, your fear track goes up. What was scary, I'm going to say, what was difficult about Bigfoot was that if you were not on the space with him, he would roll the dice that whatever the monster card would tell you how many dice to roll. And if you ended up rolling the power symbol right here, he would bring the fear track up one. And he would, it was tough. And then he would flip over one of the cards, the tiles that you had flipped over. And just in case, because I might have forgotten it, after you place, in this case, Jimmy on the board, on the bottom here, on the left, you'll see which monsters activate. In this case, the frenzied monster activates because the Mothman isn't here. So it'll let you know if it's the Bigfoot, it'll be B for Bigfoot. If it's the Chupacabra, it'll be C for Chupacabra. But if it's a frenzy or that fire symbol, whichever monster has the frenzy on his board will be the monster that activates. And then basically you just do whatever it says. Move one space adjacent to the closest nearest investigator, unless you're already on a space with an investigator, and then roll one dice. And then you would roll the dice. And if it lands on a hit, you could remove one of your collected items that you have on the board to negate that damage. Or if you cannot do that, your character gets knocked out or the civilian gets knocked out. The fear track goes up one, and if it was an investigator that was knocked out, on your next turn you would end up going to the hospital, placing your character on the hospital, whichever it is. I can't see it right now. And then you end up starting your move all over again. You get to keep your items and all that, but your fear track goes up, which is what you're trying to avoid. So that's it on the how to play portion of it. Let me talk about what I thought about it. So I'm going to say this right off the bat. If you liked the first Horrified, honestly, Horrified American Monsters is more of the same, but in my opinion, that's a good thing. More monsters, more ways and unique ways to be able to defeat the monsters. Going back right here, the way I showed you, every monster has a unique way to defeat it. And each monster has its own mini game of sorts, you could say. And it's just like, it's like a game within a game. It's like Gameception. You're playing more than one game at a time. Look, I wanted to show you this. This is this has to be like, you guys just have to see how amazing the devs, the developers of this game, look what they ended up doing. Check this out. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. It's just the game. This is the type of game that gets you in that mood, you know? It's like the time of month that everybody wants to watch their horror movies and play their little horror games. And this game is just like the perfect type of game to play this time of year. I had mentioned earlier, if you like Horrified, you're absolutely going to love this. I have no reason, there's no reason why you wouldn't. There really isn't. It's more monsters, more ways to play. I like that the monster cards, the monster decks are unique, different ways to play the game. So it's going to be something you haven't seen yet. Going back with the item cards, there's going to be a lot of different item cards, and they're going to have different useful ways to help you or help your partner, or just help move the monsters away from you, whatever the case may be. On top of that, I just have here the Bigfoot and the Chupacabra, but there's so many other ways to play, and every character is just unique in his own game. Like I said, it's like a mini game. This is like a game within a game. It's gameception. That's the best way I could actually describe what Horrified is. And I think that's why the original Horrified, I really do think that's why it resonated with so many people. Because the game just has like that neat feature in it that you don't really see that often. Like, I'll say it right off the bat. What you do here is very simple. Like I had mentioned earlier, the way you move, the actions you take, it's not hard to do. And it's also actually very easy to learn and teach other people. So you won't be studying this game for hours and hours and hours on end before you play it. This is a game that you could read it fairly quickly. The instruction book is not really that big at all, considering that at the very end, it just explains to you, I'll put this on frame for you, it just explains to you how the bad guys work and how you activate them. So, like, it's just really, really well thought out, well done. I love the way the rule book explains the game for you. I never had questions at all. The only thing that popped up for me was that right here, this token said police station, and I think what it meant to say was sheriff station, because unless I'm blind, I never saw a police station location anywhere on the board. So that's the only thing I saw, and it was only this token. Every other token was fine. So that's what led me to believe that that's like a misprint. But other than that, the game's so easy to teach, so easy to learn. I like that the investigators each feel unique, and her ability was very useful. I use these tokens. They're from Funkoverse. And what I usually use them for is so I keep track of who already went so I don't get mixed up. So after the monster phase, since there's a lot going on in the monster phase, I just go like this was the character that activated. He's done. Monster phase. So when the monster phase is over, no matter how many steps the monster phase had, I know, okay, she's next because she doesn't have the exhaust token on there. So keep something around with you if you're playing solo, so you could keep track of who's been activated and who's not been activated. As far as how the game looks, I think it looks beautiful. I mean, just take a look at the art. I think I liked the way that the first one looked. It resonated more with me because it had a feel like of the olden times. I don't know, it's just those monsters were more nostalgic to me. This had like a more 80s vibe, like this area right here reminded me of like the Friday the 13th movies and the campground over here. So I had like that 80s vibe, and then over here the swimming hole. I don't know, it had like that 80s vibe. And I still enjoyed it. I had a good time. I love the character art. I love the art on the monsters themselves are great as always. I just love the minigame aspect of it, and they're all so unique and varied. You could play this game so many times. Now, I'm glad that this game is not an expansion, because if it would have been an expansion, we would have still been seeing the same setting. Yeah, the monsters would have been different, and maybe an investigator would have had an extra ability here or there, but we would have still been in the same place. This is, to me, more like, I don't see it as a bad thing, because we watch sequels to movies all the time. I just watched Venom 2. And why did we watch it? Because we saw part 1 and we wanted to see it more. Personally, I didn't like it as much, but that's just me. But my point that I'm trying to get to you is that think of this as a sequel to a movie. And if you liked Horrified, this is its sequel. Not so much an expansion. You're still going to be doing more of the same, but it's going to be in a different location, in a different era, with different monsters and different art. And at the end of the day, it works out. It was definitely worth the $27.99 that I found it at Target for. To me, that was a steal. And for that price, this is an absolute must-buy, must-play, must-purchase. It's great for cooperative. If you're playing with other people, up to 5 people, it's great as solo. You could play with just one investigator, but I choose to play... I chose, to play as two investigators because I like to play double-handed. But yeah, the game is really great. Horrified American Monsters, perfect game for the season. You can't go wrong. I really hope you guys go out and get yourself a copy of Horrified American Monster. It's really worth it. This has been Solo Board Gaming Night, and I truly, truly hope you have a great